There are assets that make you rich, and there are those that make you poor. A fundamental difference between the rich and the poor is that rich people understand the concept of assets and liabilities. Poor people don't. Thus, while the rich buy assets, the poor amass liabilities in the name of acquiring assets. Anything that generates money for you is an asset. Anything that takes money away from you is a liability. Today, we take a look at 15 assets that are making people rich and can make you rich as well. If you want to break the poverty chains within and around you, a pen and paper will do you good through this watch. Let's get it on. 1. Stocks. A stock is a share of a company held by an individual or group. Corporations raise capital by issuing stocks and entitle the stock owners, commonly known as the shareholders, to partial ownership of the corporation. Stocks are bought and sold on what is called an exchange. There are several types of stocks, and the two most typical forms are preferred stock and common stock. Stocks are bought and sold predominantly on stock exchanges, though there can be private sales as well, and are the foundation of many individual investors' portfolios. These transactions have to conform to government regulations, which are meant to protect investors from fraudulent practices. 2. Bonds. A bond is a fixed income instrument that represents a loan made by an investor to a borrower, typically corporate or governmental. A bond could be thought of as an IOU between the lender and borrower that includes the details of the loan and its payments. Bonds are used by companies, municipalities, states, and sovereign governments to finance projects and operations. Owners of bonds are debt holders or creditors of the issuer. Bond details include the end date, when the principal of the loan is due to be paid to the bond owner, and usually include the terms for variable or fixed interest payments made by the borrower. Governments at all levels and corporations commonly use bonds in order to borrow money. Governments need to fund roads, schools, dams, or other infrastructure. The sudden expense of war may also demand the need to raise funds. Bonds are commonly referred to as fixed income securities and are one of the three asset classes individual investors are usually familiar with, along with stocks and cash equivalents. When companies or other entities need to raise money to finance new projects, maintain ongoing operations, or refinance existing debts, they may issue bonds directly to investors. 3. Real estate investment trusts. If you like the idea of owning real estate but hate the idea of managing it yourself, then the Real Estate Investment Trust, REIT, might be right for you. A REIT is a business that owns and manages real estate properties and pays out the income from those properties to its owners. In fact, REITs are legally required to pay out a minimum of 90% of their taxable income as dividends to their shareholders. This requirement makes REITs one of the most reliable income-producing assets on the market. However, not all REITs are the same. There are residential REITs that can own apartment buildings, student housing, manufactured homes, and single-family homes, and commercial REITs that can own office buildings, warehouses, retail spaces, and other commercial properties. In addition, REITs can be offered as publicly traded, private, or publicly non-traded. 4. Investment/vacation properties. Outside of the realm of stocks and bonds, one of the next most popular income-producing assets is an investment/vacation property. Owning an investment property can be great because not only does it provide you with a place to relax, but it can also earn you extra income. If you manage the property correctly, you will have other people such as renters helping you to pay off the mortgage, while you enjoy the long-term price appreciation on the property. Additionally, if you were able to borrow money when acquiring the property, your return will be a bit higher due to the added leverage. If this sounds too good to be true, it's because it is. While there are many upsides to owning a vacation rental, it also requires far more work than many other assets that you can set and forget. Owning an investment/vacation property requires the ability to deal with people, list the property, provide ongoing maintenance, and much more. 5. Farmland. Outside of real estate, Farmland is another great income-producing asset that has been a major source of wealth throughout history. Today, one of the best reasons to invest in farmland is its low correlation with stocks and bonds, since farm income tends to be uncorrelated with what is happening in financial markets. In addition, farmland has lower volatility than stocks while also providing inflation protection. Because of this asymmetric risk profile, farmland is also unlikely to go to zero, unlike an individual stock or bond. Of course, the effects of climate change may alter this in the future. 6. Angel investing. If farmland isn't for you, maybe you should consider owning a small business or part of a small business. This is where angel investing and small business investing come in. However, before you embark on this journey, you have to decide whether you will operate the business or just provide investment capital and expertise. 7. Peer-to-peer lending. Like a bond, peer-to-peer lending is a fixed income investment where you lend money to individuals that hopefully pay you back over time. Given that individuals are generally less creditworthy than governments or businesses, the interest rates charged on these loans are typically much higher. However, higher interest rates don't necessarily mean higher returns. 8. Royalties. If you aren't a fan of lending, maybe you need to invest in something with a bit more culture. This is where royalties come in. On sites like Royalty Exchange, you can buy and sell the royalties to music, film, and trademarks. Royalties can be a good investment because they generate steady income that is uncorrelated with financial markets. For example, over the last 12 months, Jay-Z and Alicia Keys' Empire State of Mind earned $32,733 in royalties. On Royalty Exchange, this song's royalties for the next 10 years were recently sold for $190,500. Therefore, if we assume that the annual royalties remain unchanged going forward, then the owner of those royalties will earn 11.2% per year on their $190,500 purchase over the next decade. That sounds like a good deal to me. What do you think? Let us know in the comments section below. 9. Your own products. Next up, one of the best income-producing assets you can invest in is your own products. Unlike all of the other assets on this video, creating products, digital or otherwise, allows for far more control than most other asset classes. Since you are the 100% owner of your products, you can set the price and thus determine their returns. Products include things like books, ebooks, information guides, online courses, and many others. More importantly, if you already have an audience via social media, an email list, or a website, selling products is one way to monetize that audience. And even if you don't have one of these distribution channels, it's never been easier to sell products online thanks to platforms like Shopify and Gumroad and online payment processors. 10. Business. A business is defined as an organization or an enterprising entity engaged in commercial, industrial, or professional activities. Businesses can be for-profit entities or they can be for nonprofit organizations that operate to fulfill a charitable mission or further a social cause. Generally, a business begins with a business concept and a name. Depending on the nature of the business, extensive market research may be necessary to determine whether turning the idea into a business is feasible, and if the company can deliver value to consumers. There are various types of businesses which one can go into and make good earnings from it. To be honest, I have not seen someone get rich by just a 9-to-5 type of job. Owning your own business is a means to attain a greater height with patience and consistency. Before moving into the last 5 assets that can make you rich, if you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, kindly do so by clicking on the subscribe button below. Please give us a like, share the video, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell for timely updates of our latest uploads. Let's continue. 11. Index fund. Index funds are a way for investors of modest means to get into the stock market. But the better you become at investing, the less desirable they are. In short, an index fund is simply a mutual fund where, instead of a portfolio manager making selections, the capital allocation is delegated to whoever determines the index methodology. When investors buy an index fund, they get a well-rounded selection of many stocks in one package without having to purchase each individually. And because these funds simply hold all the investments in a given index, versus an actively managed fund that pays a professional to do the stock picking, management fees tend to be low. The result? Higher investment returns for individual investors. 12. Intellectual property. Copyright, patent, and trademark are all different types of intellectual property, IP. Although the three types of IP are very different, people often confuse them. The primary goal of the patent law is to encourage innovation and commercialization of technological advances. Patent law incentives inventors to publicly disclose their inventions in exchange for certain exclusive rights. A patent protects inventions. A trademark is a word, phrase, symbol, and design that identifies and distinguishes the source of the goods of one party from those of others. A service mark is a word, phrase, symbol, and design that identifies and distinguishes the source of a service rather than goods. Examples include brand names, slogans, and logos. If well worked out, intellectual property can make one filthy rich. 13. Real estate. Real estate is the property, land, buildings, air rights above the land, and underground rights below the land. The term real estate means real or physical property. Real estate is property consisting of land and the buildings on it, along with its natural resources such as crops, minerals, or water. Immovable property, among others. There are 4 types of real estate. Residential real estate that includes both new construction and resale homes. Commercial real estate that includes shopping centers and strip malls. Medical and educational buildings, hotels and offices. Industrial real estate includes manufacturing buildings and property, as well as warehouses, and finally land that includes vacant land, working farms, and ranches. 14. Audience and social media brands. This is something that is very recent. When few people started making money from it, it went viral in the sense that vividly, most people now want to build a relationship with their fans. Every business owner wants to build a community on social media to promote their products. All you have to do is embrace technology and you'll be good to go. 15. Cash. The first and foremost thing is very basic, which is cash. This is a priority, and having some liquidated value is always good for certain unforeseen circumstances. Also, it can get you higher returns straight from cash deals. From an accounting perspective, cash is the most liquid asset a company can possess. A cash balance indicates that a company has cash on hand and can use that cash however it wishes. Cash includes more than just the physical traditional bills and coins. Cash can include any other currencies as well as an undeposited checks and amounts in a current account. Cash is classified as a current asset on the balance sheet and is therefore increased on the debit side and decreased on the credit side. There we go. Did you enjoy our video? Which of these assets do you deem the most profitable and why? Well, if you enjoyed our video, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more of our fantastic content. Please give us a like, share the video, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell for timely updates of our latest uploads. We value your feedback. Feel free to share your thoughts with us in the comment section below.